And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello and welcome to Thursday's segment for Alaska weather. Up first tomorrow morning, flying weather showing IFR for the north slope out to the Arctic coast with a fair amount of VFR here into the central northern interior south of the Brooks Range, and then 3 areas of IFR across southern Alaska, one out here over the Yukon Delta, another one right up along the Alaska Range down into the Aleutian Range, and a third one here up over the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, on up into the across a portion of the Matanuska Valley into the Talkeetna Mountains, and then a little bit of IFR over the northern Panhandle with marginal VFR for the Gulf of Alaska, VFR here, Alaska Peninsula all the way out to Adak. And for Friday afternoon, IFR from the Brooks Range to the Arctic coast, IFR for the southwest interior, and IFR for the North Gulf Coast, right into the northern Panhandle and down over toward the eastern border. Otherwise marginal there with marginal VFR across most of the Gulf of Alaska, all of Kodiak Island on up into southern Cook Inlet with mostly marginal conditions out over the Bering Sea, although some VFR here over south central Bering around Adak and Atka and those areas. For the Saturday morning time, we're looking at IFR again, not much change going on up here from the Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast. And a big area of IFR now over the southwest quarter of the state, although improving over northern Bristol Bay during the morning hours there with a band of IFR over toward the Alaska Range there and down again into the Aleutian Mountains with here marginal VFR for the Bering Sea down to the Aleutian, shimmying at 2 though, forecast to be VFR, and some pretty good conditions for the mid and upper Tanana Valley there, looking VFR, also for the Susitna Valley in the northern Cook Inlet, and still a band of IFR here, Prince William Sound right into the northern Panhandle and then down along the border. And for the afternoon, not much change here for the southeast coast. Starting to see some VFR showing up, though, around Prince of Wales Island area and Dixon Entrance. IFR, though, hanging in along the North Gulf Coast Range into Prince William Sound. Marginal VFR now over the western Copper River Basin, Matanuska Valley, Talkeetnas and those areas. And a zone of IFR here that extends from actually the western Alaska Range across the Kuskokwim Valley, Yukon Delta, right on up there across St. Lawrence Island. IFR holding from the Brooks Range out toward the Arctic coast, and not too bad out west. Pretty good swath of VFR here for Adak and Atka, all the way over to Kiska Island. And for passes for Anatuvik and Adigan, look for IFR flying through both passes tomorrow throughout the entire day Friday. Lake Clark and Merrill, same thing, IFR expected, as well as rainy. And for windy, marginal VFR. Isabel looking marginal. Mintesta, marginal VFR. Then IFR for Portage, and also or for Tanita, Tanita IFR, as well as Portage and Chilkoot and White IFR. Freezing levels here, 2,000 feet, Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, right along the North Gulf Coast, 2,000 to 4,000 feet over the Panhandle, and 2,000 feet way to the south off the chart here out west, way south of the Aleutians, and at the surface here just north of the Pribilof Islands. And for icing, another system here pushing a band of considerable moderate rime icing into the far western Aleutians. Otherwise looking at a zone here of potential heavier icing from the lower Yukon River area right on up into the Koyukuk Valley. And then with the continued flow of moisture here from the south up to the north, we've got pretty good chance of some areas of considerable moderate icing, rime or mixed icing for Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, in over the Panhandle. And looking at the jet stream at 33,000 feet, again, another fairly strong low coming up toward Kodiak Island, parking itself about in this position tomorrow afternoon. So to the north of that, basically easterly flow here at about 65 knots over the interior, turn south to north, 60 to 65 knots there across the Seward Peninsula to the northwest coast, with the main jet way down across Vancouver Island. And for 9,000 feet, low pressure here just east of Kodiak Island, Good southwest flow right into the southeast coast from the Gulf there. Southeast 55 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Easterly winds up here in the north at 40 to 45 knots. And then coming back around, north-northwest, 45 knots for the southern Bering Sea, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, but stronger, up to 50 knots there for the western Aleutians. 3,000-foot winds showing low pressure at this elevation just east of Kodiak Island. Northeast winds up to 50 knots there for the northwest coast areas, and then northerly flow turning northwest anywhere from 45 to 50 knots here across eastern Bering Sea, right on down into the eastern Aleutians, strongest over the Alaska Peninsula. Strong southwest flow here across the Gulf of Alaska into the Panhandle of 40 to 50 knots. And for the turbulence with the stronger winds, considerable moderate here, Dixon Entrance, Western Panhandle, North Gulf Coast, Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula, Eastern Aleutians, right up over the eastern Bering Sea and the western interior. And also a pretty tight gradient along the Brooks Range there will create some mechanical moderate turbulence in that area.